Thank you for joining this session. So this is for the Bachelor of Science in the Individualized Interdisciplinary major. So basically a very innovative and kind of new major at HKUST, but already started in 2016. Today we will have two speakers. So the first one is Professor King Chow. Professor King Chow is our program director. And because he's not in Hong Kong, so he will share this major via the Zoom platform. And we also have our student, Saiki, and then he will share his experience in the IM program. So without further ado, maybe first invite Professor Chow to say a few words to us.
Right. All right, okay, thanks everybody for coming to this particular section. I noticed that this section actually is relatively a smaller one. Why? Because actually for the Individualized Interdisciplinary major, it is not a program which is listed in JUPAS. Students coming in fact, they are first enrolling into each of our school, and then through the first year, they need to apply to get into this IIM program. But anyway, I think that is a very unique program in Hong Kong, as well as in Asia. And I think that actually this is something good for a selected group of students, particularly when they have a very specific interest that they want to develop in their undergraduates. Now, let me go through the next 15 minutes or so to give you a bit background about this program. So I call this program about turning the students' passion into reality, because actually you are not simply following what the other have defined as a discipline. Now, let me move. Okay, so if you look at what happened in the school and what happened in life, you often see that in the school, we always define our study into a specific discipline. For example, in the School of Science, we have a chemistry, we have physics, we have biology. In the School of Engineering, we probably would have industrial engineering, civil engineering, computer science or so. Everything is well separated. But think about in real life, do you think that any of this specific discipline, they will be applied to solve their daily life problem? Sometimes actually, most of the time actually it's not. We need to combine the knowledge in different disciplines, and all together we solve problem. I think that's what happened. And in a way that we want to train students with that kind of mindset so that they will be able to use all various disciplines combined together to solve problem. So at one point, we call that it is really a program to tailor-made for students who have specific problem in mind and they want to combine everything together so that they can learn in the 4 years to get a bachelor degree and focus on a specific topic. Now, we can ask a lot of students, and we can also ask parents that when they are kids, they come to university, actually what they are thinking about. A lot of times they will say, well, I'm doing pretty well in the school, but then a certain area I don't like. And so I want to find a major which does not require me to focus on particular major. For example, some students, they hate maths. Then they say, well, can I find a major without maths? Sometimes they have some specific direction. For example, they want to get a professional qualification. So therefore they pick, for example, accounting, people pick law, pick medicine. Now, sometimes they will say, well, I don't really know what it is. So I want to have a broad exposure and I want to take a very general subjects. And some would be thinking about, well, what kind of major would allow them to finally get into a job with a high salary. So I think these are the consideration for a lot of students when they first come into university. But after they get into it, I think they change the mindset. A lot of students will start thinking about, well, which course is easier? And which course will allow me to get good grades so that I can graduate in 4 years without too much difficulty. Of course, I think that what's the job after getting a degree is always on the top of the agenda for a lot of our students. Now, in a way, sometimes we see students, actually, they have a very specific interest. They say, well, I want to focus on an area that I want to change certain problem, change the world in certain direction. Now, I'm asking students to think about that, okay? Now, so we want them to be able to develop a very specialized major, really tailor-made for their own interests. So that's why we call it individualized. But then it is not focused on one single discipline, so it's interdisciplinary. And so what it is about, we want to give students the total freedom. This so-called the total freedom is that they have a very broad academic possibility. They can tap into courses not just restrictive to one particular program, one school, or even one university. And this specialized area, it can be very innovative, but I think that the student need to define it because it is something significant that they can achieve. So in a way, you can ask how many of the students in their year 17 or 18 years old, they would be able to define such a very clear direction. Of course, not many students would be able to do that. And so I think that from our experience in other institutions, as well as from our own experience, that, well, every year we may have from half a dozen to a dozen students who have a very strong interest in specific area. So they come forward and tell us that I want to declare a major in a certain area. Now, the important part of it is that we always emphasize on this concept, so-called conceptual whole, as listed in this slide. Conceptual whole means that I'm not taking a particular major because I don't like chemistry. So I eliminate chemistry. I don't like, for example, certain calculus. I want to eliminate that course. It's not like that. We want students to be able to combine everything all together so that they make sense by itself very coherently to represent a very specific direction and a problem they want to focus on. Now, so this kind of program, in fact, is very common in US. In all cases, these programs are very small, usually a handful of students every year. In Cornell, they run this called independent major. And then they, for example, have computing and cognitive aesthetics. In Berkeley, they have this called interdisciplinary studies field. People can do bioethics combined with global health and law. Now, similarly, in other institutions, they can politics, law, environmental issues, or computational mathematical modeling combined with biology. Now, it is really integrating everything together. Now, think about that. If we want to do that, what do we have? Now, so these are some of the majors that we have encountered in HKUST in the past 8 years. For example, we have students doing bionics. I'll have some examples to illustrate to you. We have people doing computational cognitive science. We have art heritage, digitization, and curation, which I believe that actually nowhere around the world that you will find a major like that. We have bioenergy management. Later on, I think Saiki, one of our students currently studying at UST, will tell you something about anthropomorphism in interactive systems. Maybe actually when you learn about this title, you don't even know actually what it is about. So very diverse and very specific. So what it is, so it really depends on the students. They need to define exactly what area they want to focus on. Okay, so that's really the essence of this particular major. Now, let me use examples for our first students in this program who graduated a couple of years back, who's now in Europe doing a lot of robotic bionics research. It is called a major in bionics. It is interdisciplinary in a way. It combines biology, neuroscience, mechanical engineering, electronics, control system, sensors, and with understanding of physiology of the human being. Now, what happened? So if you combine all this together, essentially, it is a topic that integrate from robotics, life science, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, design, and technology combined together. We call that bionics. So it is not a single major in a way. Now, we have another student who just graduated last year. Her major is called Built Environment Design. Now, if you ask me, at first when I look at this particular title, I don't even know actually what built environment is, but then combined together with design. So the major will focus on how to, the building of an environment, provide fundamental knowledge of engineering, computer science, modeling. By collecting data, finally, what does she want to do? She wants to support the environmental design of a community. So it is really about urban planning with the sustainability in mind and then the people's well-being being considered. So again, it is a combination of everything from environmental science, architecture, computer science, civil engineering, all this combined together. So it is not really a single major. Now, let me use the first student talking about bionics. In a way, actually, when he was in this program, I can tell you that he has a very specific interest in mind when he was in high school. He was always fascinated by the Star Wars movie because he was looking at the Darth Vader with this kind of biomechanical device being like a hang on to him as a wearable, and so that to give him extra power in a way. Now, what he has in mind, in fact, he was interested to work in the robotics, particularly in one company, which is called Boston Dynamics. If some of you know that actually what Boston Dynamics is, it's a major leading company which is like a driving robotics to make various kind of robots for military purpose, but also for industrial purpose. What he has in mind is that, well, there are certainly people, actually, they have, for example, muscular dystrophy, one way or the other. If you can carry a exoskeleton on our body so that they can strengthen to have a extra power, they can carry heavy load in a factory, that would really allow them to achieve a lot more. And particularly for patients, that also help them to regain their strength in their muscle. Now, that's the kind of like a dream that he has in mind. And so he continued after finishing the bachelor degree and moved into Germany and studied the master and continued to do research in this area. Now, from the feedback from our graduates, actually, they always say that, well, this major allowed them to explore different fields of study and link different perspectives. Of course, I think the major thing is that it gives them a lot of flexibility to design the curriculum, to pick courses which is really fit for the purpose. It allowed the student to really take full responsibility of what they want to do. Now, of course, it put a lot of demand on the student to think through what they try to achieve down the road. Of course, they get a lot of advices from our faculty. Interestingly, no undergraduate student in any program, usually they would have an advisory committee. But for this program, they do. Each student actually, they have an advisory faculty committee. We have like a 3 to 4 faculty who walk this student through the entire 4 years to allow them to define clearly what they want to achieve and what courses they can take. Now, with that, how does it work? Usually the people, when they first have this idea, they kind of strengthen the thought about, consolidate all the different inputs from advisors, and so they create a curriculum based on their area of interest. Then they submit the proposal with some faculty endorsement. And afterwards, actually, we need to have the student to have a formal oral presentations to us, to a panel, who vetted that proposal before we submit to the school and the university committee to get it approved. And finally, if the students start preparing all these in their year 1, they will be formally declared as a major in IM in their year 2. So in a way, that's what I said. It's not listed in JUPAS, but if students are interested in doing it, they can enroll into different humanities, social science. They can enroll in the business school, engineering school, or science school. But at the end of the first year, then if they have worked out this entire procedure, they can declare the major in IIM. Now, having that, of course, the student need to fulfill the 4-year curriculum, including our common core program, language requirement, as well as some other electives. Collectively, I think the interesting thing is that, well, it's really allowed our students to have no longer a school-based type of a program, but it's really maximized the use of any kind of courses available in the university. Even more so, I think that I need to emphasize, we have agreement with Hong Kong U, with Chinese U, as well as City U. For some of the courses, let's say in UST, it is more a science and technology university. For some courses, we may have some additional courses offered from other institutions. If that's the case, we allow students to do this so-called local exchange. They can take some courses in Hong Kong U, City U, or Chinese U. We may explore further to other local universities too. Now, then the people say, well, what define the admission criteria? A lot of the people will say, well, this must be a very unique program. We try to emphasize that this is not, I should not call that a elite program. It is a program that tailor-made for specific student with specific interests. As long as the student can prove that their academic ability is really at average or a bit above average, not need to be the high-flying grades in all cases. That's good enough. And of course, they need to show their passion that they want to do it. So they write up a good proposal. And of course, they need to be psychologically prepared, because for a 17, 18 years old student to really plan through the entire process, it is quite demanding. Now, so that's why we say the type of student we're looking for are those with the passion and interest in this program. And if you are doing that, And we will work together with you to define a very clear path so that you can finish your degree here, right? And so if you want to learn more about this program, certainly I think that we have information on the website. And of course, you can also write us in this email, iim@ust.hk. Now, this is really a general overview about the program. And I'll let our student, the current student, Saiki, who has been really exploring this program quite a bit, to tell you a bit more about how he went through the entire process to become a major in this program. All right, so I stopped sharing this and I pass the podium to Saiki.
Testing, testing. Okay, hi everyone. So this is Saiki speaking. I hope you received some solid informative recognition of how our project or our program functions thanks to King's introduction. And I'm here to further equip you with details that by sharing my own IM story with you. So let's begin by letting you know more about me. So this is my full name, and you can always address me as Saiki. So I'm a year 4 student, but since I took a gap semester last spring, I won't be graduating until I finish 3 more semesters, including the one I'm currently in. And I was a DSE candidate back in 2019, and my best 5 at the time was 31, and under UST standard, which at the time was BET 6, with mathematics and English being doubled, my score was 48 over 56. And my electives were economics, Chinese history, and Chinese literature. This might sound amazing and amusing to you, as I believe that many of you think that UST students are from STEM backgrounds. And so after DSE, I got admitted by UST Business School school-based program in fall of 2020 because I was not academically approved or let's say qualified for HKUST, the global business program, because I think at the time the lower quartile was 50 over 56, so I was not qualified. During my first year, I was eventually interviewed by HKUST, and I could have got into it if I put in the efforts, but I was also preparing my IM at the time, which you can tell by now that I stick to IM because I'm standing right here. So I ended up being an IM student starting from the fall of 2021, declaring the academic title of Anthropomorphism in Interactive Systems. So now you have a basic understanding of my background. I'm going to share with you the 3 unique advantages IM offers by taking you on a journey that how I've come so far. So you must be so excited because I am excited. So it's now rewind time. Let's bring back the time to the first half of 2020, where I was a 17 years old student, university admission candidate, just like maybe some of you got here. All right. I believe that many of you are familiar with these logos, or let's say the coat of arms. Would any of you be interested in telling me which these universities are? Anyone want to try? Just shout out the answer, which one is which? The left hand corner, what is that university? Did anyone know? Here, Harvard. And maybe that one, the left bottom? Yeah, MIT. And here we go, there's 2 British. The British University, which was the right-hand side on top corner, which is that? That is Cambridge. And at the right-hand bottom, what is that? That is Oxford. Well, we have some wild guests here. You would know everything about this. Okay, so you might be wondering, okay, why is these guys listing all these renowned universities here? The answer is simple, because at the time, I got offers from these universities. So Harvard's mathematics, MIT's computer science, Cambridge philosophy and history, Oxford's literature, I got these offers. But the problem is let's say, wow, it's I know what is going on in your mind now. This guy is bragging about himself. But hear me out. At the time, I was also a 17 years old student, that I was struggling with my own meaning of life at the time. So I believe that, there's something different, something special, something unique inside my mind and my soul. So I do not want to be restricted in a specific academic area. So I believe that, these limited scope of curriculum would have ended up narrowing my visions, would end up, and, those fascinating insights or ideas that is in my mind might just never pop again, might not just spark again anymore. So are there any other options than the 4 offers that I had? Of course I had. Our lovely UST, and specifically the GOT program, the GBUS. So, but unfortunately, as I mentioned, that my DSE result was not academically qualified, so I did not get into GBUS through GBUS. So I have to admit into the business school of UST. And so the thing is, I at the time believed that there's 2 types of program in traditional sense of education, in which the first type is being specific academic area, which these areas are more academically oriented. They have a specific scope of curriculum which go deep, but then in a narrow direction. And we have a second type of program that is called general academic areas, let's say GBUS. These academic areas are less academically driven. So since they're less academically oriented, the scope of the curriculum will be in a much more wider range, but then you will have a staying shallow in different areas. So we can basically interpret it as specific academic areas offer you less freedom, and general academic areas offer you more freedom. So I at the time believed that the latter is a better option because I have this interdisciplinary visions, insight, and passion. There's something that I have, and I believe that is unique to me. So I get into UST through business school, and I wanted to get into GBUS. However, there's something went off. After I got into UST and learned more about GBUS, by first-hand experience, I figured out something that was new to me at the time, that I never thought about it. So GBUS does have more freedom, as well as a stronger networking, and we have more favorable resource allocation. But then GBUS does not offer strong support in academic areas regarding knowledge and skills specifically. So we can say that it does not penetrate enough, academically enough, in areas like literature, in art, in humanity, in history, in psychology, in philosophy, in science and technology, in math, in design, whatsoever. All those academic areas, it does not penetrate academically deep enough. So the problem here is GBUS does not limit my growth, but then it also does not boost my growth. It does not cultivate me. So I figured out that not only do I have interdisciplinary visions, insights, and passions, I also need in-depth knowledge and skills in multiple academic areas. So this is why I eventually fell in love with our program and committed everything to it, because our customizable curriculum is the only answer to this specific desire, to this specific need. So this is our first unique advantage. IM cultivates the unlimited potential of any passionate and insightful students in their own unique emerging interdisciplinary areas like no other program does. Okay, let's keep the time clicking. Let's keep the clock kicking. The time now is my first year when I was preparing for my IM program. As I mentioned, or you can see here, my academic title is Anthropomorphism in Interactive Systems, which in Cantonese is 交互系統擬人論, and in Mandarin is 交互系統擬人論. So what I want to achieve is to research and study the proposition of what defines human, and to develop theories and applications around it. And I believe that the word anthropomorphism sounds like a fancy term that probably many of you have heard it for the first time in your life until now. So I'm gonna explain it shortly. Anthropomorphism means to implement human characteristics to non-human entities or events or concept, etc. So basically, in English, it is like a theory of personification. In Cantonese, 演化嘅理論. In Mandarin, 拟人化的理論. So the example here I give is Peppa Pig. Like she is a pig, but then she have these human characteristics like speaking. Disclaimer, I'm not a fan of Peppa Pig. I just pick it for the sake of easier explanation. So here comes a question for you guys. You know, I got this fancy major. I got this professional academic area to research and develop in. But what is the origin? What is the origin of these fancy academic areas? Or like to make the question simpler, what is the thing that I ultimately want to achieve? There's something I want to achieve. Just like Thomas was fascinated by Star Wars, so he dedicated to bionics. What is my original story? Anyone want to try to guess? What is my origin? Why I wanted to do this major? Anyone want to make a guess? You can just shout out the answer if you want. Like even in Cantonese or Mandarin, I'm going to translate it for you. No one's going to try? Okay, I feel sad. All right, so basically, it's so simple that it might shock you or even like traumatize you, because what I wanted to do is so simple, because all I wanted to do is I wanted to make better fictional characters and bring them to live. Because like, I was that naive otaku that fantasized about these things. And there's this AR product named Gatebox, which they are still in the market now. So they were being first introduced to the market at the same time that I was doing my proposal. So all I wanted to do is like basically it's similar to that. It's like some AR product that brings your fictional characters to live. But then, you know, something is off. My idea was simple, but then it lacks this academic scope and also depth. So, of course, King challenged me. King, which is Professor Chow, we usually address him as King. King challenged me when I made my first proposal, which he challenged me so hard that I once think like I belong to a garbage bin. So, but then I realized King believed in my vision, believed in my insight, believed in my passion. And all he was hoping is to support me, to rise me up, and had been urging me to come up with the best version of my philosophy. So, you know, I started working with my unbreakable heart of gold and the bloody effort of squeezing every bit of my intelligence out of my brain, as well as the most nutritious academic support that I've ever received in my life from King and all other faculties that I invited during my story. And eventually I discovered that my philosophy can possibly make AI models more human-like. I can possibly reform character design for content creations in, say, for example, novels and games, etc. I can possibly reform storytelling and brand management. And also, I can possibly improve cognitive and behavioral guidance in educations or consulting. And there's much more going on in the academic field. That was the first time that I ever thought about that. My philosophy is so strong that tremendous amounts of academic areas can be better off from my philosophy. And the feeling of me being unique was true. The actual reality was like, I could have ended up wasting my talents and capability in a short-sighted vision, and I would have never gone this far without knowing King, without knowing all the faculties and all other personal networks that I built through my journey in IIM. I would have never come so far. So here we are. This is our second unique advantage, that IIM provides the most nutritious challenge that will sharpen students in their own unique emerging academic area like no other program does. All right, so the clock keeps ticking and ticking. We have reached the person that is currently standing in front of you. Until this very moment, I am who I am now. And I'm going to introduce you to some of the achievements that I've accomplished during my journey. So first of all, let's start with academic development in non-customized courses. We have this course named TMG 4000G, Deep Tech Startup Business Plan. It is a completely new course that it first started only in this semester, which is offered by jointly by OKT, which is Office of Knowledge Transfer, a strong department in UST. And for these specific academic courses, in a course, 2 consulting teams will work to help commercialize innovation IP from the OKT. And this semester, we're working on 2 projects, one being an AI BIM project, and the other being an AI dentistry project. And those are my friends that I'm working with, like the tall guy, Andy. I know him since high school. He's my close friend. And those are Curtis, Jonathan, Jackie, Manvi, Minson, Julia, and Kevin. They're all great young talents all across the globe. And we worked well. This course is fascinating. And what I achieved here is I'm the only one that is joining both teams, and I act the leading role in both teams, which demonstrates that I have this advanced level of understanding in AI and different technological R&D, as well as in business development. So let's move on to another aspect of academic development in customized courses. So, in IIM students, we have a specific, unique academic course code, IMT 4900, which stands for Independent Study for IIM student. So I'm taking this course this semester under the title of Film Script Analysis and Script Writing for Science Fiction Storytelling. In the course, I got to work on my own AI-generated visual content creation, let's say, for example, films, animations, etc., with a complete script and characters. So the guy named Brown Shirt is Alex. Alex is my supervisor of this course. He used to work for Warner Bros., the film company. And the lady at the very front is one of our meeting guests. That she worked as a C-class faculty from Himalaya, which is one of the biggest audiobook platform in China, in mainland China. And she is also from Three Body Universe. In Cantonese, 三体宇宙, and in Mandarin is 三体宇宙, which is like the most famous sci-fi IP in mainland China. So it was an amazing meeting, and I got to build personal connections with them. I got to build personal connections with the faculties, and I was invited to the 2023 Chengdu World Science Fiction Convention, which is going to take place just a few days later, on the 18th of October. And for those of you who don't know this event, let's say in Cantonese, it is called 成都科幻大會, 世界科幻大會, and in Mandarin is 成都世界科幻大會. And I will be attending online because I'm still on campus. And for those of you who don't know what this event is, it is an event that includes the ceremony of Hugo Award. Hugo Award in Cantonese is 雨果獎, and in Mandarin is 雨果獎. So basically, if you know that, it's considered the Nobel Prize for science fiction. So let's move on to career development. I've got the opportunity to work in the game industry. So this is like 2 of the famous game companies in China. And also in publishing industry, I got to work with the Japanese giants in publishing, Kadokawa. And in animation industry, I got to work with the studio from Hyperglyph in mainland, and the other 3 was some anime studio that's franchised under the Sony empire. And in terms of research and development, and also as brand manager, I got to work in Gold Atom, which is one of the biggest security technology company in mainland China, as a R&D officer and brand officer. And in the education sector, I got to work in university like HKU for education development projects. And I also got to work in high schools, like my own high school, this is HBCCSS, as career consultant. So, and this is the ultimate career development that I have, is like I have my own multiple startup companies that will start in a few years. So this is, we come to an end of our third point. IIM is going to actualize the best achievement students could have ever aimed for and justifies their own unique emergent academic area to the largest possible extent, that like no other program does. So my journey will keep sailing in the guidance of the brightest nova in the starlight, in the start night of future. But the story that I can tell you here has come to an end. And I hope this is nutritious. And I want you to think about this question. What was the key takeaway for my speaking? It's like for my talk. You might have your own answer, but then here's my attempt. I'm going to say that the key takeaway is IIM is like no other programs. So don't hesitate. If you're interested, just speak to me or speak to King. Your future shall shine like no others does. So thank you for paying a long attention. We are now open to Q&A section.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask us here or outside the LT. We have a counter over LTE, so we'll be stay here for until 6 p.m. And then if any questions, please feel free to raise your hand and then we'll pass the mic to you.
Hello, Saiki. Thank you for sharing. And I would like to know, you got many opportunities meeting and working with many different companies that work in like multiple industry. And I would like to know, did you approach them by yourself, or did the faculty give more, guidance and suggestions on the way? Yeah, thank you.
So we will have different approach. So I'll say generally there's two approach. So first of all, if you think that your academic area you know the best, it's like because it's so new, maybe the faculty that you have, like even professors, they don't really know how to identify a correct path or like a mature industry for you to like experience what is going to benefit you. Then maybe you have to figure it out yourself, and you got to approach those opportunities by yourself. Which in my case, most of the opportunities that I have is like I approached myself. But then there are still many opportunities that was introduced by faculties and by the networking of the people that you know. So it's like I got introduced to many people by King. It's like I know I built many personal networks just because King introduced them to me. So it's like we will have other opportunities based on those personal networks. So remember, there's two approach, and you can always shift between them, and you can grab both sides just to satisfy your own needs. So you have to be self-driven, okay? So the most important thing is like you have to be self-driven. You got to work for it.
I think just to echo what Saiki say, in fact, we demand students to be a little bit more proactive along the way when they are in this program. So even when we like introduce him to specific context or company or so, if he's not really proactively engaging, nothing would come out of it. But then if they start like working together with our partners, then actually you'll find that there's a lot of new opportunity, even though we did not start off with a particular projects. But then new idea would come along the way through the discussion. I think that's the way that we develop the program to allow it to be really tailor-made for individuals.
I would like to ask if there are really specific requirements if I have to, maybe if I want to have like some individualized program on something more related to the art side, do I have to submit portfolios or maybe previous awards or something like that?
We are not really asking for any kind of portfolio per se. Usually what happens is that students, when they first come to us, they don't necessarily tell us exactly what they want to do, but then they have some big idea. I think that as Saiki pointed out, usually I think for the faculty involved in this process, we challenge the student to help them to really clarify a lot of their thoughts and put them into a more coherent framework so that we can work on. Because after all, I think you are studying at the university. So what the university can offer is all the opportunities, but also courses. So we'll try to identify area that we believe that is important for assembling a sensible curriculum that allows you to develop further. And then from that point onward, we will start asking you more background, actually how you are prepared for this one or that one, whether you fulfill prerequisite of some courses here and there. And then we try to help you to assemble the entire list of courses into curriculum. Now, one interesting thing that actually Saiki did not tell you is that, well, as a first year student, he basically planned out the entire 4 year, what is supposed to be. And so if you ask a lot of our students entering the university, how many of them they start thinking about what courses they're going to take in the spring term when they first get admitted to university? But he has gone through the process to think about actually what he needs to do in the second year, third year, and fourth year, when to take a gap year, and when to do a course in Hong Kong U, and when to do a project here and there. So he thought it through. And so this is a process actually all the advising are being provided so that the student would be able to assemble something that's meaningful.
Thank you very much.
So portfolio is not really a major requirement. So there's a question from the back.
Yeah, thank you. This program sounds fascinating, but I want to ask if there are any limitations or restrictions on what you are going to choose for researchers.
Okay, certainly I think there's always some limitation because actually, after all, the university would not be able to provide all the necessary courses for any major. So of course that a bulk of the courses need to be able to, you need to be able to find it in HKUST. Of course, we can't cover everything, but if there are certain area which is missing, we allow you to take courses in other institutions. So other local higher education institution is one of the choices, but then you can also go for exchange. We do almost again, many of them actually, they did go for exchange in institution, even though for institution, they don't have any mutual agreement with us. For example, you remember I talked about this student, built environment design. So we have no exchange agreement with an Italian institution, which is focusing on architecture. But because of her major and because of the need, we negotiate with the institution. So actually, she spent like a spring and summer in Italy working on an urban planning project in that institution. And we simply work it out for this student specifically. So I think that is really defining why we say that there's no limit for this program. As long as you have identified something which we think that it is fit for the purpose, we'll try to work with it with you to get it done.
So like from a personal
Did
experience.
I answer your question? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to add on King's answers, it's just like I can share with you my most personal experience, just like what I mentioned, is that usually the ideas, the starting point of your idea might be simple, they might be blur, they might not be so academically, they don't cover so much academically, they don't penetrate enough academically. These are the problems that you are gonna face because we're young, we're not exposed to the academic world that much compared to the professionals. So there's always something to be challenged. And when those challenges come to you, it's always gonna bring you new insights. It's gonna, they're gonna broaden your horizon. They're gonna bring your vision to another new level, which in my case, as I just mentioned, is like, who would have thought that, trying to bring an anime character to live is gonna benefit AI. It's gonna benefit, it's gonna benefit brand management. It's gonna benefit talent management. It's gonna benefit education. There's nothing at the very beginning of your at your proposal. There's no academically. You will have to explore and develop it to some core value. This is why what we call it philosophy. When PhD is called the doctor of philosophy, because you reach the level of philosophy. So it takes time. It takes time for you to consolidate your thoughts, to reform your ideas into a better version. So yeah, it's like no limitation. The limitation, if you have to say one, is not working hard enough, not thinking hard enough. That is a limitation.
I know this course is not open to a JUPAS student, but how about non-JUPAS student?
For non-JUPAS student, in fact, they can still come into UST, entering in any single school. But then I think in the first year, usually in the first term, they will start working on this IIM proposal. So therefore, actually, we are not really saying that it's restrictive to JUPAS. It's open to all. A lot of our international students, when they come, actually, they also declare IIM as their major after they arrive. In fact, we do have a number of students, the reason for them to come to UST is because of the IIM. They have that in mind very early on. But then they get admitted into one of the school first, and then they declare the major in IIM within their first term after they submit the proposal. Right.
So actually, no matter which school or which program you are admitted at HKUST, so the opportunities is equal for everyone. So once you are HKUST student, you have the chance to declare IIM in your first term of HKUST life.
I think one of the mottos actually we were constantly emphasizing is that learning, there's no boundary. We don't want students to really define a boundary so that actually they simply focus on a very narrow field. In fact, I think in real life, a lot of the problem to be solved actually is having no boundary. And then we want students to define that specific topic. And if they have that in mind, we try our very best to help them to really craft out the path towards that.